And with the Republicans preparing their assault on the tax system, which they call a tax reform plan, we thought it might be useful to hear from someone who might be affected, perhaps quite favorably, by that tax plan. Morris Pearl joins us now. He is the chair of a group called Patriotic Millionaires, and he'll tell us what that means in a second. But first of all, Morris Pearl, thanks for coming on the program.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's great to be on your show.
And great to have you, as I said. So, all right, let's start with this. What is Patriotic Millionaires?
Well, we created a group in 2010 to urge the government to let the Bush tax cuts expire just for the top bracket. As you remember, back in 2001, they had a temporary, they said, 10-year tax decrease of the top bracket from 39% down to 34 something percent. And we thought that that should be allowed to expire. The Obama administration thought we were kind of dorks for attacking the left, or at least that's what Ms. Jarrett said. But over the next year or two, they realized we were helping them, sort of giving them the political space they needed to do what they wanted to do. And so they actually had to stand with the president on his famous tax day address when he invoked the Buffett rule, that it's just not fair that these wealthy people have lower tax rates than their assistants do.
And the Buffett rule, of course, named after Warren Buffett and the billionaire, not Jimmy Buffett. But so let's start with this. So you guys have stayed around since then. Obviously, that fight seems like a long time ago now. But you guys are now, you at Patriotic Millionaires are now taking a highly visible role in the Republican/Trump tax cut debate. And you're doing that with some progressive allies, some very progressive allies in Congress, including Representative Pramila Jayapal, who's been on this program, Representative Barbara Lee. Why are you doing that?
Well, we believe a couple of things. It's just not right that wealthy people are getting a tax break. It's just not right that we're asking less wealthy people to make sacrifices. We're asking people in Michigan to go without water and people in Puerto Rico to go without electricity. And we're asking people to get less money for their health care. And at the same time, we think there should be more money for billionaires. I think that's just morally reprehensible. And also, I don't think it works. We business people and investors don't want the kind of country with a few rich people, lots of poor people, because that's not the kind of country where we want to live and where we want to make money.
Yeah, well, let's talk about making money for a second, since that's something you mentioned. A lot of people would say there are two ways for investors and others to make money in the current economy. One is by making money off what some people might call the real economy, or people, goods, and services. Another is what some people call financialization, making money off money. So there are those who like the Trump and Republican policies because they feel it makes it easier for them to make money off money. When you talk about policies that make money, it seems to me you're talking about the real world economy. Is that distinction real in your mind, and is it important?
Yes, I think it's a good distinction. But I think what people forget is that all of the money in the financial economy, all of the money in the financial engineering comes from people at some point. All of our machinations about mortgage-backed securities eventually depend on people living in homes making their mortgage payments every month. All of our machinations on structured credit around asset-backed securities involve people with credit cards spending money dollar by dollar and paying their credit card bills and their auto loan bills every month. So it all starts with people who are spending money and doing stuff. And yeah, financial engineering does take out a little bit of it here and there. And yeah, I did very well doing that for a while. But I don't think that's really where the money starts from. That's not where the value is created. The value is created when people all over this country have those little white earphones and the wires leading to their pockets and are paying 99 cents at a pop to iTunes. And that's the money that adds up to make billions of dollars for Apple and those dividends that I collect every month, every quarter, and that I'm able to have a lower tax rate than most of those other people because I get investment income and capital gains, whereas they earn salaries and wages.
So, do you think, and we'll get back to the tax policy in a second, but I'm kind of trying to set the stage for it, and I appreciate your response on that. Again, we're talking with Morris Pearl, chair of the Patriotic Millionaires. Do you think to a certain extent we're seeing the kinds of policies being pushed by the Republican Party, by Donald Trump, and so on, because people are losing sight of the fact that at the end of this chain of transactions or layering of transactions or whatever you want to call it, there are real human beings and that at some point, if that foundation of the economy crumbles away, you're left with nothing? You think people have just lost that, or are they just being so greedy in a kind of short-term way that they don't care?
No, I don't think they've lost it. Steve Mnuchin knows exactly how that works. He's the Treasury Secretary. I think what they are is they've just decided that it's just not morally right for rich people to pay taxes. Period.
So that's fascinating, actually. They just and what do they base that on? You think? I'm sure you know more of these folks than I do. Is that just such a primal urge? Like, this is mine, throwing my arms around it, I'm going to keep it. Is that just a primal thing, or have they come up with some a Randian libertarian rationale, or what are we up against here culturally?
Well, I mean, I don't know. The members of our Patriotic Millionaires don't believe that. We believe that it's the patriotic thing to do to put your wealth with everyone else's wealth and use some of that wealth to pay for things for our country, like roads and bridges and schools and hospitals and all the other things that our country needs. But there are some, particularly people who make money by extracting minerals from the earth, like coal and oil, that really don't see anyone else as contributing to their wealth. Most people know that they're wealthy because of all the things the people who came before them did. I made a lot of money, but I used the internet. That was paid for by taxpayer dollars. I got a degree from the University of Pennsylvania. That was paid for by people who came a long time before I did in Pennsylvania. And all of us stand on the shoulders of those who came before us. And I think a few people have just totally forgotten that. They just, their image of an American is the guy riding off into the wilderness in Oklahoma 100 years ago, doing a wildcat oil rig and finding oil and then becoming rich. And he says, oh, nobody helped me do this. It was all by myself. I deserve to keep every penny of this wealth. But no, most Americans don't do that and never did. Most Americans work in places with lots of other people, do things that require their education, and understand that. I think it's just a very few people who just honestly believe that rich people are just somehow, I don't know if it's morally superior or whatever, but just rich people deserve to be rich. And no, I mean, it's okay to be rich. I have nothing against being rich. I think it's a lot better than being poor. I suggest that everyone be rich who can do it. But no, that doesn't make you a better person. And it doesn't mean that you're exempt from having to contribute to society along with all the rest of your fellow Americans.
So where do we stand on the struggle over the tax cuts that Trump and the Republicans want to put in? What's the current state of play, and what's the possibility of, in your view, of thwarting them now that you've been talking to folks on Capitol Hill and so on and fighting this battle?
Well, I don't know. I was on the East Lawn of the Capitol yesterday afternoon with a bunch of other lawmakers who are on our side, my side anyway, like Pramila Jayapal, who you mentioned, and like Elizabeth Warren, and like Senator Bernie Sanders, and like Senator Charles Schumer, and several others. And they all join us in believing this is just wrong, and that they can defeat this just as they defeated the healthcare proposals with enough public support. What's going to happen? I'm not a procrastinator about what the United States Congress is going to do, but I think that the Republicans are just trying to convince Americans that things like repealing the estate tax is a fair thing to do. The estate tax that applies only to people who die with over $11 million of assets in their family. And in many cases is not the double or triple taxation they're complaining about, but is the only tax these people ever pay. Imagine, for instance, if you start a business from nothing and you build it up to be worth millions and millions of dollars, and then eventually, after your demise, that goes to your children. You never pay tax on the increase in value in that business because there's never a realized gain. And they never pay tax on any increase in the value except beyond what the value was when you died, because they get a stepped up basis. The increase in value from nothing to whatever it was at the time that the founder dies is never taxed in any way by any part of the government, with the sole exception of the estate tax. And that's the tax that Donald Trump wants to get rid of. He knows it'll save his own children billions of dollars, and a few other of his rich donors billions of dollars. And yeah, if you add up those billions and divide it by the population of the country, yeah, it might save everyone an average of $4,000, but only because a few people are saving billions and billions.
And everyone else saves nothing. And it's so a great point. It's actually not double taxation in a lot of cases. It's the only taxation. And the other point is the double taxation argument makes no sense anyway. If you make a lot of money in your line of work and are taxed on it, then you hire me to do something and I'm taxed on it. That happens every day. So this notion that it's double taxation. No, you're taxed on your income. I'm taxed on my income, regardless, and it should work that way regardless of how the money is acquired, whether it's earned through work or investment or inheritance. So that one has never made any sense to me. Forgive me for that rant, but I couldn't resist. So we'll have to leave it there, unfortunately. But Morris Pearl, chair of Patriotic Millionaires, thanks for all your good work on this topic, and thanks for coming on the program.
Thank you very much. Great to be in your show.